Welcome back, friends. In our previous session, we have gone through the parallel systems, the multiprocessor systems. Now, let us continue our topic. And we have one more concept in that area, that is the clustered systems. Let us try to know what is meant by clustered system. See, clustered system is another kind of multiple CPU system. Cluster is another kind of multiple CPU system, and something like it is a multiprocessor system. What is the specialty in a cluster system? See, cluster systems gather together multiple CPUs to accomplish computational work. Let me repeat. See, similar to multiprocessor systems, cluster systems gather together multiple CPUs to accomplish computational work. So we can also say that cluster systems differ from multiprocessor systems in the way that they are composed of two or more individual systems or nodes joined together. So what does that mean? That means that there is no fixed or there is no tightly coupled between the computers or the processors or the nodes. Rather, we have two or more computers and we are going to make these computers or the process as a group which is a logical entity, which is not a physical entity. We are not tightly making all these processes as a single processor or a single entity. Rather, we have different nodes, we have different systems or different process, and as a logical thinking we are assuming that these are all systems or the processors which are going to do this particular task. Systems are somewhere not fixed grouping, rather it is a dynamic grouping. So that's why we can say that it is a logical group instead of a physical group. So we can extend the definition something like, the definition of the term clustered means it is not concrete. It is not concrete. And normally we can say that the computers share storage. The computers share storage through a form of local area network or using some kind of interconnection. This is one of the example. You have, for example, 4 systems, and I am assuming that these 4 systems are working for my company, and we have another 3 systems. These 3 systems are working for my home, and we have another 10 systems. These 10 systems are working for my college. Assume like that. So I am just making all the systems as a cluster. That's it. Here cluster means all the systems are individual, but still I am grouping them according to my choice. So cluster means grouping of computers or the processors or the nodes. So what is the basic advantage of using cluster? So the basic advantage is it is usually provide high availability service. You have to remember this point. The basic advantage of clustering is it is providing high availability service. So high availability means even though if one system fails, automatically other system will take the responsibility. That means the systems will not get down, and at any cost, at any time, you're going to give service by one or other process or systems. That's why we are saying that it is of high availability. And a layer of cluster software runs on cluster nodes. You have to remember that for making the clustering, you have a separate software. So that software is called, normally we call it as the cluster software, and it is going to run on the nodes which are assuming that which are made as a logical group or made as a cluster. And clustering can be structured asymmetrically or symmetrically also. So cluster can be structured asymmetrically or symmetrically. Just refer our previous session. You can go through our previous session. You can find out the difference between asymmetric and symmetric. When you say asymmetric, that means you can find a master and slave concept. If you say that it is symmetric, everyone has equal priority, equal rank. So clustering can be done either asymmetric or symmetric. So let us go a little bit deep. In asymmetric clustering, what happens? One machine is in standby mode while the other machines are running the applications. See, if you're assigned it as asymmetric clustering, then what happens? One machine is in standby mode, while that means standby mode means it is acting as a master machine, whereas all the other nodes in that cluster are serving the applications. If you go for the symmetric mode, what does it mean? Two or more hosts are running in applications and are monitoring each other. So that means if we are going for the symmetric multiprocessing or symmetric clustering, then we can say that it contains two or more nodes and all these nodes are associated with the applications. At the same time, all these nodes are supervised or monitored or monitoring each other. This is the basic difference between asymmetric clustering and symmetric clustering. Let us try to recall what is the basic advantage of using clustering. So the basic advantage is availability, and clustering is mainly used to increase the performance. Clustering is mainly used for increasing the performance. That means clustering can be achieved. High performance computing can be achieved using the clustering concept. High performance computing. Normally we use this word in the supercomputer, HPC, high performance computing. So if you do the clustering, then you can achieve high performance computing. If you look at the picture, you can see the general structure of a clustered system. If you look at the picture, you can see the general structure of a clustered system. Let us try to understand this picture. In the picture, you have a storage area network. Normally we call it as SAN. SAN. Storage area network means it is a storage which is connected to a network rather than to an individual computer. So if you have a database or if you have a storage connected to a network, then you have to call it as storage area network. And you have different computers, and I am saying that all these computers are interconnected. So we have different computers and all these computers are sharing with the same storage area network. Then this is a kind of cluster. Now let us understand, does the clustering is fixed? No. So the concept of cluster or the making or the grouping of systems, is it fixed or concrete? No, it is not fixed or concrete. Rather, it is dynamic or it is changing according to our requirements. Some clusters or some cluster products support dozens of systems in a cluster, and all these clusters assume that they might not be located at the same location. For example, I am making a group of systems as a network, and one system may be in India and second system may be in Australia, and another system may be in variety of countries, different countries. So physically these systems might be located at different locations. Still, we can make them as a logical cluster. We can associate all those systems with a common storage area network that is called SAN. So what is the basic advantage? If the host fails, then any other host can take over in the cluster. That is the basic advantage. This results in the availability. This results in the high performance computing. Friends, let us try to understand some basic concepts. The next concept is the operating system structure. Operating system structure. That means we are going to discuss about the basic information of the computer system organization and architecture. Already we have covered, but now let us try to see the operating system structure. So in these concepts, we will try to cover some basic definitions, basic ideas in this session. So the first idea is the multi-programming. So one of the most important aspects of operating system is the ability to multi-program. You have to remember this point. See, one of the basic advantage of operating system is to ability to multi-program. You can have more than one program and all the programs can be executed simultaneously. A single program cannot in general kept either the CPU or IO devices busy at all times. So you know that if you have only one program, it is not going to keep the CPU busy. So in order to keep the CPU busy, you should have more than one program, and at any time CPU is trying to compute these programs simultaneously or sequentially or parallelly in any fashion. So our main intention is we should not keep the CPU idle. So multi-programming is a concept which increases the CPU utilization by organizing the jobs so that CPU always has one to execute. So this is the first definition we'll learn. So what is meant by multi-programming? So multi-programming means it is an environment, it contains more than one job, okay, and CPU is trying to switch over these jobs, okay, and CPU is always busy in executing these jobs. That's it. So what is meant by a job? Job means it's a combination of both the program and the data, or the software code and the data. Think like that, right? So since we are saying that it is a job, when you have more than one job, so where you have to keep all these jobs? So we have to allocate some memory for these jobs and call the area as the job pool. Job pool. So job pool is a memory location in the computer where it contains all the jobs which are to be executed by the CPU. So that means this pool consists of all the processes residing in the secondary storage or any storage awaiting allocation of the main memory. Now you can look at the picture. See, in the picture you can see the operating system code. This is the memory layout of a multi-programming system. You can see the operating system. Assume that it's a big program running in the main memory. Apart from the operating system, you can have a number of jobs. In the diagram you can see job 1, job 2, job 3 and job 4. We have 4 jobs, and all these 4 jobs are running in the system, or all the 4 jobs are being kept in the main memory. This is the simple layout or the memory layout of a multi-programming system. Let us try to understand one more definition, that is the time sharing or the multitasking. What does it mean? Time sharing or multitasking is something like if 2 or more programs are executed in parallel, if 2 or more programs are executed in parallel in a multi-programming environment, then that system is called time sharing system, or it is doing the multitasking. How could it be? We have only one CPU, and how the one CPU can do different jobs? Very simple. See, every job is not expecting the CPU utilization. Some jobs may expect the input output utilization. Some jobs may expect some interrupts. So CPU barely can execute for the computational work. Apart from the computational work, we have many other things to do. So we can do things parallelly. Correct or not? If you try to do things parallelly, then you have to say that the system is a time sharing system or the system is a multitasking system. That's it. So we can define it as multitasking system, or the time sharing system is a logical extension of multi-programming. So time sharing system is a logical extension of multi-programming. Correct or not? Yes. Time sharing system is, it is a multi-programming system only, but it contains more than one job which is concurrently executing. Try to ignore the technique how it is going to be executing concurrently, but assume that you have jobs and there are many jobs which are executing parallelly. Then call it as time sharing. So time sharing is an extension of multi-programming. And apart from time sharing, we need to know some of the basic definitions, something like process. So what do you mean by process? See, students, if you write a program, that is a program only. If you try to execute that program, then it will become a process. So the definition of a program is something like process is a program which is under execution. Process is a program which is under execution. If you have developed a program, it is not a process, it is just a program. And if the program is in running mode, then the program has became into or turned into a process, right? So if you have many jobs or many processes coming inside a system, then you cannot assign the CPU to all the jobs concurrently. Then what you can do? Yeah, you can schedule these processes. You have n number of processes or n number of jobs in your system, and you want to execute all these jobs. So you can't execute all these jobs parallelly. What the maximum you can do? You can schedule these jobs accordingly such that CPU could not be made into idle, and the CPU with the switching mechanism can be executing these jobs in parallel. Correct? So such kind of scheduling is called job scheduling. And if these jobs are being allocated with the CPU, then that is called CPU scheduling. If you are scheduling the jobs, call it as job scheduling. If you are scheduling the jobs with the CPU, then call it as the CPU scheduling. For example, in the main memory, you have one job running, and in the secondary memory, you have another job waiting. For example, my job in the main memory has been completed. Then what you're going to do? You're going to pick up the job in the main memory and put back into the secondary memory, and pick up job from the secondary memory and place it in the, this is called swapping. This is called swapping. Okay. So these are the things which we have to know in this session. So what are the definitions we have covered in this session? We have covered the multi-programming. That means more than one programming or more than one program. If you have more than one program, then you need to maintain a job pool. Okay. And if you have more than one program and assume that all these many programs are executing parallelly, then you're following a technique called multitasking or time sharing. Apart from that, if any program which is under execution is called a process, and if you have a process and if you're going to assign, or if you have a process and you're going to schedule the process, then call it as job scheduling. And if you have a process which you're going to assign the CPU, then call it as the CPU scheduling. Apart from that, we have also understood about the topic called swapping. Swapping means it is something like picking one job outside and next keeping inside another job at the same times. The activity is vice versa. Swap in and swap out. So the combination is called swapping. Now let us try to go through an important question from operating system. The question is something like, what are the services done by an operating system? What are the services done by an operating system? We'll try to check out each and every service little bit detail, but here we try to cover all the services, just getting a basic minimum idea from each service. The very first service done by the operating system is the process management. The very first service done by the operating system is the process management. Friends, process means it is a program which is under execution. So you write a program. If you keep it in your phone, if you keep it in your computer, call it as a program. If the program is being executed by the CPU, then call it as a process. So as a task of process management, what operating system can do? Operating system can take this process management, something like whenever a process enters into the system, okay, then operating system tries to allocate resources for this system, tries to create a child process for this system, tries to synchronize the process with this system, tries to allocate files for this system, and whenever there is any input output needed for this process, operating system makes the process waits and do the input output job. So regarding to the process management, what are the activities operating system can do? Operating system can create a child process. Operating system can allocate resources to that process. Operating system can terminate that process, and also operating system can make a synchronization between these processes. And there are so many other jobs done by the operating system with respect to the process management. We'll try to see little bit more detail in the next sections, but in this question we just go through the brief activities or brief managements done by the operating system. So this is about the process management. Next, after that, what is the second management done by the operating system? The second activity of the operating system is the memory management. Now recall friends, we have two kinds of memory. One is the primary memory and second is the secondary memory. Primary memory is also called as the RAM or the random access memory or the prime memory or primary memory, and it is a volatile memory. Whenever a program wants to execute, that should be kept in the prime memory or the primary memory. Otherwise, that process will not be executed. If you have any job, if you have any process which is to be executed, so that should be kept in the main memory. Okay, with respect to the operating system, what it is going to do in the memory management, when you are running a process, operating system checks for the limits, mean at which memory location this process has to be copied. At which memory location this process has to be copied. What is the amount of space this process has been required? What is the amount of space this process has been required? How much space it requires? So what is the starting and ending positions in the memory for this process? What is the starting and ending positions required, stored for this process in the main memory? And it also looks for which parts of the memory the process has been stored, allocating the memory, deallocating the memory. So all these things done by the operating system with respect to the main memory. So what is the other kind of memory we have learned earlier? The other kind of memory is the secondary storage. Correct. So in the secondary storage, where is the secondary storage located? Secondary storage means the data can be located either in the hard disk or the floppy disk or in the CDs or in the pen drives. You have various kinds of secondary storage. So all these secondary storages are also being modified or managed by the operating system. So if you have any process running, what are the files required for this process? OS will check for that. What are the files required for this process? And if user is having any data, permanent data in the form of files or programs, how we are going to store these files and programs in the computer? Something like file system management. See, in your computer you can see all the files in the form of some directories or structures or trees, etc. So that is providing by the operating system. So coming to the secondary storage management, operating system takes the responsibility of file system management. Also, operating system creates files, deletes files, creates directories, delete directories, and operating system also supports some kind of primitives for manipulating files and directories. And the basic thing OS will do is mapping of files onto the storage at if the file if which file has been located at which location in the secondary storage. If there is any chance of corrupting a file or failure of any disk, so operating system also takes the backup of the files in the storage media. So these are all the file system management activities or the secondary storage management activity. And apart from that, since secondary storage also contains the hard disk, floppy disk, etc., so OS can do the free space management, means where are the free spaces available in the secondary storage, and if we are going to allocate a file in the secondary storage, how it can be. That means it is called the storage allocation. And for example, I am having a hard disk. So how that hard disk has to be accessed, from top to down or down to top, in which direction we have to access. So this is called disk scheduling. So these are some of the activities done by the operating system with respect to the mass storage management or the secondary storage management. Okay. Apart from that, operating system also takes the responsibility of cache management. Operating system also takes the responsibility of cache management. So cache is a specialized storage associated with the CPU. Cache memory is a specialized memory which is associated with the CPU. Cache contains the most frequent accessible variables and data. If your CPU is keep on looking for particular data, CPU tries to keep the data in the cache, not in the main memory. Of course, there is a copy in the main memory also, but since CPU is working in the main memory, right? And if it is having some data which is very much frequently used, for example, you have a for loop for I equal to 1 to 1000. So the I values keep on incrementing, I equal to 1, I equal to 2, I equal to 3. So for every time CPU is looking for I value in the main memory, that will take some time for it. So if the value of I, the variable I, if it is kept in the cache memory, then CPU can easily go through that. So that is the main concept of cache memory. So managing the cache memory is also being done by the operating system, right? And after that, how about the IO systems? Yes, the input output systems are also being managed by the operating system. If you have any device connected to the computer, immediately operating system comes into the picture. What is the device driver? It asks for the device driver, because device driver should be installed with the operating system. If there is no device driver installed with the operating system, OS cannot access with the devices. Okay, so if you want to attach any device, if you want to detach any device, or if you want to speak with any device, operating system takes the responsibility of accessing the input output devices. And the next activity done by the operating system is protection and security. We have to protect our data, and we have to secure our resources. So protection is something like it is a mechanism for controlling the accesses of processes. That means our job, our data should not be unauthorizedly accessed by other processes. So that is called the protection. Okay, let me repeat again. So protection is a mechanism for controlling the accesses of processes or users to the resources defined by a computer system. See, I have a process. My programmer, my task, my job should always access these files. It should not go beyond and access other files. So if it is not accessing, that means it is perfectly protected. If it is going beyond, means something went wrong. So protection is something like it's a mechanism. Whereas security means it is security deals with securing the data. Security can be defined as a system restricting from external and internal attacks. Try to remember this thing. Security can be defined as restricting or constraining a system from external and internal attacks. If there is any attack, something like virus, worm, denial of service, identity theft, there are many kinds of attacks normally being posed on a computer if it is working with the internet, right? If you made your computer secure, that means perfectly locked, using password mechanism, using encryption standards, antiviruses, anti-worms, etc., then your system is secure. These attacks tries to mean what exactly do? Every attack has its own purpose. So operating system also takes the responsibility of protecting the computer. At the same time, it is also taking the responsibility of securing the computer. So these are all the jobs of the main or primary jobs of the operating system. What is the first job? That's the process management. Second one is the memory management. Again, in the memory management, we have gone through the main memory management, the secondary storage management. And after that, we have also understood about the input-output systems has been accessed by the operating systems. OS also takes the responsibility of protection and security. That's all, friends. We'll try to meet in the next session with the next concept. Hope you understand the session. Thank you.